I am Dr.Ashwin Dobariya welcomes you to Programming in C video series. In this theory video, we'll discuss very important concepts, that is condition statements or decision statements. Generally in every programming language, this condition statement is useful in a various type of programs. And we can write these if statements in many different ways. So in this video we'll see how we can write 4 different types of condition statements, or you can say decision statement. So let's discuss the concept of control structure first, then we'll move to the condition statement. Now here in C language there is a concept of control structure. Control structure means generally the C program executions happen from top to bottom approach. So all the statements are executed one by one, and the control is gradually moved from one statement to another statement, then next statement. So here and that kind of programming is, you can say, it is a sequential program. Sequential means the statements are executed step by step. So C program statements are normally executed in a sequence in specific order as per written in the programs. So C also called a sequential language, or you can say procedural language, because its execution is in a specific sequence. But in some situations we require to change the flow of execution. Change the flow of execution means depending on the condition we want to change the flow. For example, suppose if particular condition is true, then you want to execute one process, and if the condition become false, then you want to execute the another process. So in that situations we require the decision statement. So in C language there are many different type of control structure. Here control structure means which will change the flow of executions in the C program. So one of the statement is the using if else statement. So we can change the control structure directions. And if statements, also known as a decision making statement. Then another is the switch case. So switch case is also another type of control structures which is having a different branches. I will also upload the separate video for switch case. Then loop is also changing the sequence of the control. So for loop, while loop, do while, we will discuss in detail in upcoming videos. Then the conditional operators, and another statement like go to, break, continue. So these are all considered under the control structure. All these control structures, or you can say statements, are directly or indirectly change the flow of executions. And in this video we will discuss how we can write the if statement, or you can say the decision making statements, in 4 different ways. So let's start the discussions about the condition statement. First of all, we have to understand when we require a condition in our program, or where we require to write the condition in our program. So whenever we have many options, right, then we have to check the conditions, and depending on the condition we have to select one process. It is something like a situation in our real life. Suppose you are going to on a particular place, and suppose if you are going to a straight road, right, then there is no need to take any decision, because you have to go to only straight side. So in one way, if there is no different options, then you have to execute the process in a same sequence. But whenever you have many options, right, suppose there are 2 ways, then you have to take a decisions whether you have to go to left side or a right side. It means whenever there is a multiple options, then we have to check the condition. If there is no options, then we do not require to check any conditions, right? So condition status is always either true or false. In programming, the condition always having a 2 status, you can say, either condition becomes true or condition become false. Now these are the 4 different types of condition we can write in C language. First type of if conditions, it's a simple if statement. Then if else statement. After that, third type is nested if else, and fourth is the else if ladder. Now the general flow chart of the decision making statement, or we can say it's a C statement, is if is always check the condition, and condition is having two options. If condition becomes true, then what you want to execute, and if condition become false, then what you want to execute. So we have a two process number 1, process number 2, but at a time we want to execute only one process, right? Either 1 or 2 depending on the condition. So in that case we can use the if statement. Let's see the concept of simple if. What do you mean by simple if? Simple if is nothing but it is a if condition where there is no else part, right? There is no else statement. It means in our program some situation we want to execute certain block of statement if condition becomes true. We don't want to do anything if condition becomes false. It means we do not require the else part in some situation. So in that case we can write only if statement. So in sometimes we want to execute the statement only if the condition becomes true. If condition is wrong, then we just want to move on next statements. So it does not have a else part. So when you write a condition and which does not have a else part, this type of if statement is known as a simple if statement. So what is the syntax for that? If, then you have to mention the conditions into bracket, and if this condition becomes true, then it will execute the statement block. If this condition becomes false, then there is no else part, but it will execute the remaining statement available in the programs. So if we draw the flow chart, then start and it will check the condition. Here there is no need of the else part, but if condition becomes true, then we want to execute a statement. If condition becomes false, then we want to directly jump to the next part or end of the program. So in that case we can use the simple. Let me discuss certain example of simple if. So one example, like suppose the C program of absolute number conversion. Now absolute number is nothing but if you input a negative value, then it should be converted in a positive. But if anyone input a positive value, then we do not require to convert in a negative, right? So here if number is negative, then and then we want to convert the positive. Otherwise we do not want to do anything. So in that case here we will declare one number, then we will ask one number from user using printf scanf, and if this number is less than 0, then and then we want to convert in a positive value. So how we can convert the positive? Multiply by -1, then it will convert into positive. Now suppose if anyone input a positive value like a 5, then this condition become false, then we want to continue the executions of the programs, right? So in that case we have written only if part, there is no else part over here. So here suppose if we input a -25, then this condition becomes true and it will convert in a positive value. Now the same kind of example, suppose you want to write such a program in that if the age of the person is greater than 80, then and then he is eligible for voting. If age is less than 18, then we don't want to do anything. So in that case only if part is required. Similarly, yes, if the salesman is selling more than 50,000, then and then we want to give a 10%. But if less than 50,000, then we don't want to do anything. Then again we can use the similar type of condition. Then if purchase is greater than 1,000, then and then we want to give a 25% discount. So in that case we can use simple if. Then if the recharge is greater than 399, then and then eligible for the cashback offer. So these are the few examples where we can write only if part, there is no else part in this. So this is the first type of if condition, that is known as a simple if statement, which is not having the else part. Now the second type of if statement or a condition statement that we can write with the else part. So in our program, in some situations we want to execute certain block of statement if condition becomes true, and if condition become false, then we want to execute the another part of the block. Then in that situations we can write the if else statement. So it is used when there are two options in our program. If condition becomes true, then we want to execute a block 1, otherwise we want to execute a block 2. So how we can write? The syntax is if, then we have to mention condition. If this condition becomes true, then it will execute the true part. It means the immediate part of the if conditions, right? It will execute block 1. But suppose this condition become false, then control is directly jump to the else part and it will execute the statement block 2. Now remember friends, in this, in if else conditions, either it execute block 1 or block 2. It will never execute both the block, remember, because either condition becomes true or condition become false. Only two situations are there in the condition. So that you have to keep in mind. So how we can draw the flow chart of that? So start first, it will check the condition. If condition becomes true, then execute the block 1. And if condition become false, then execute the second block. And then you execute the remaining part of the programs. So this is the example, or you can say the syntax of if else, and mostly this if else is the common condition statement generally we are using in our program. Let's see the example. Suppose if we want to write a program which will check the input number is odd or even. So we have two options, either input number is odd or even. So we have two options. But at a time the number will be only 1, either odd or even. So for that we declare one variables, then we'll input one number in a x. After that we'll check the condition. If x modulus 2, modulus which always give a remainder, and if the number, if you divide by 2 and the remainder is 0, it means this number is the even number. And suppose if the remainder is not 0, it means the control is directly jump to the else part and it execute and give the value odd. Here friends, you have to mark one things. Whenever after if and after else, if you want to execute only single statement, then there is no need of curly brace. So curly brace is optional if you want to execute only single statement after if or after else, right? But suppose if you want to execute multiple statement after if and after else, then you have to write the curly brace over here. So that things you have to keep in mind. So this is one of the example of if else statement. Now the third type of if statement we can write, that is known as a here also if else is there, but the word is nested. Now what is the meaning of nested? Nested means the if statement may have another if statement. So whenever a if condition contain another if condition inside it, then it is known as a nested. So nested means if condition inside another if condition. This kind of condition is known as a nested if. So sometimes in a situation, for example, if first condition becomes true, then inside that we want to check another condition, and the another condition is having also two options. If this condition becomes true, then we want to execute this statement, otherwise we want to execute this statement. So here one if we have mentioned inside another if, and if the outer if or if this condition become false, then control is directly jump to the else part, and inside the else part again we can check the another condition. If this condition becomes true, then execute this statement block, otherwise execute this. So nested if else means the if condition inside another if condition, that is known as a nested if else. How we can draw the flow chart? So condition, if the outer condition becomes true, then execute the body. Inside that body another if condition will evaluate, again it will if it is true, then it execute the body of the block, otherwise it execute the another part. If the outer condition become false, then again it execute the another part of the program. So in that way we can write the nested. Let me discuss one another practical example of nested if else. Suppose based on our percentage, if you want to display the grade or a class. So here just for example I have declared one float variable, that is float p percentage, and I have directly mentioned 75 over here, that we can take from input from user also using printf scanf, right? And user will input the percentage, and that percentage will verify. If percentage greater than 70, if this condition becomes true, then it will evaluate the next statement like your class is distinction. But suppose if the percent is not greater than 70, then the control will jump to the else part, and inside the else it will check another condition. Suppose if percentage is not greater than 70, the meaning is that percentage is less than 70, and if percentage is less than 70, then here we will check another condition. If percentage is less than 70, then it is greater than 60. If it is greater than 60, it means the percentage is between 60 and 17, then it will display the first class. But suppose if this condition become false, it means your percentage is again less than 60, then it will move to the else part. Again inside the else it will check another. If it is less than 60, then whether it is greater than 50. If it is greater than 50, then it will say that this is the second class. But suppose if percentage is not greater than 50, again it will come to the else part. Inside the else it will check another condition, whether percentage is greater than 40. If greater than 40, then we can say it is a pass class. Otherwise, finally, if percentage is not greater than 40, it means less than 40, and less than 40 means the student result is fail. So here we have mentioned if condition inside the another. So this is the example of nested if else. Similarly, the fourth type of condition statements, or we can say the decision statement, that is an else if ladder. Here ladder means we can write the sequence of if else, if else, if else, if else kind of things. So else if ladder, you can say else if ladder is very similar to the nested if else, but only method of writing the condition is little bit different. So what is the syntax for that? So here also, see, if we talk about the previous example, so in that case here if statement and else part is written separately, but here in else if ladder, suppose if condition becomes true, then it will evaluate the true part, otherwise it will evaluate the else part. But in else if, the if is written like this. So else if is the keyword we can write over here. So there is no separate statement else and if, but else if we can write combine. Again it will check the condition. If this condition becomes true, it will evaluate the statement 2. Suppose if this condition become false, again it will move to the else part. Inside that again it will check the another condition, and if condition becomes true, it will execute the third statement. If this condition become false, again control move to the else part. Again we will check the another condition. If this condition becomes true, then it execute this fourth statement. And finally, suppose we don't have any other next condition, then we can directly say if this condition become false, then it will evaluate the statement 5. Then how we can draw the flow chart of that? So first the condition, if condition becomes true, then execute statement 1 and move to the end part. Otherwise, if condition become false, then it check the another condition inside the else part. If condition becomes true, execute second statement and move to the end part. If second condition is false, inside that check the third conditions. If it is true, execute third statement and it. If the third condition become false, in that way we can check n number of condition in a nested if else. And if we talk about the same example of percentage, then here see we can write the similar example. If percentage greater than 70, then display this distinction. Else if, so here we have mentioned else and if together and check the condition. Here also else if, check the condition. If this condition becomes true, display second class. If else if, again it will check the next condition. If condition becomes true, execute, otherwise finally it execute the fail. So this is the way to write the condition statement in C language, and we can write 4 different way of this condition. So I hope friends you enjoy these videos, and in this video description part I have also mentioned the other theory and practical videos links for your reference. So please friends, like this video and share this video to your friends so they can also get the benefits, and for getting the updates of upcoming video, please subscribe these channels. And in the next video we will discuss another important concept, that is looping structures, or you can say looping statement of C language. Actually in C language there are 3 type of loop, but I will upload the separate video for loop, while loop and do while loop in upcoming videos with the example. So thank you very much friends.